Joining us now, who has weighed in on his share of cases and fought a variety of cases in court, the famed defense attorney, the author of the book Excellence in Cross-Examination, F. Lee Bailey, Skyping in once again to America's Forum. Counselor, we heard from President Obama there. I think back several years to Richard Nixon in the Charles Manson case, declaring Manson was guilty before the trial had finished. Is there a tendency of chief executives, regardless of partisan label and regardless of the fact they've ostensibly been trained in the law, is there a temptation for presidents to make pronouncements on different cases?
There is indeed. When O.J. Simpson was first arrested, Bill Bennett, former head of education, came out and said without question he's guilty. None of these people are doing a service to the justice system, but I fully understand the need to condemn that kind of action without waiting for a jury trial 2 years later. After all, one wonders if we wouldn't be better off to be like the bobbies in England, where the cops carry clubs and not guns.
Well, as you set that up, there's one more political perception here that we might want to deal with. President Obama, in his latest statement on Michael Brown, much more restrained and detailed comment the White House issued recently. Is that due more to polling? Is that, in effect, a make good for overstepping his bounds in the Trayvon Martin case?
Well, President Obama has two limitations. Number one, he is the chief executive of the United States, but he's also a lawyer. And that kind of conduct is condemned by the rules that govern the bar. So I would think his advisors probably told him, let's not be quite so vociferous on the issue of guilt early in the game.
Let's talk about what is happening there in Ferguson, Missouri. The police have not named the officer involved in the shooting. Is that a smart move?
Well, they think it's a necessary move. I'm not sure it comports too well with the rules of the United States, but it is fairly common in accidents and other acts of violence for the police to withhold identities for the purpose of notifying the next of kin. In this case, it is for the purpose of avoiding having the officer assassinated. There is a great deal of rage about the fact that 8 shots were fired.
Given this fact, and as just don't want to skip a lot of steps here, but if in fact this case does end up coming to trial, if they decide to file charges against the officer and it ends up in a criminal court, given the amount of publicity on this trial in and around Ferguson, Missouri, will it be difficult to put together a truly impartial jury?
It will. I rather think the indictment, when it comes, will be federal. If you remember the officers being acquitted in Simi Valley, the feds came and put them in jail anyway, and the locals are under a great deal of pressure in this community. My feeling is that the case will be moved to a different community for trial.
And to offer a bit of a different perspective, we are not moving for a change of venue in this particular case. We're just calling on yet another attorney to join the conversation along with F. Lee Bailey. She is Janet Johnson, Skyping in, if I'm not mistaken, from Jacksonville, Florida. So we've got Counselor Bailey in Maine and Counselor Johnson in Florida. Janet, this case, as it continues to move along in Missouri, the dynamics, the public attention. We were just talking with Mr. Bailey about what may transpire. Is a change of venue, do you think that will eventually happen if this case would move forward with criminal charges against the police officer? Apparently, we are having difficulty hearing from Janet Johnson. We will try to fix that. We do know that Lee Bailey is loud and clear from Maine, so we'll try to fix what is going on with Janet Johnson's Skype and return to you, Counselor. The whole notion of trying to defend an officer in this kind of situation where there is so much public scrutiny, where passions are so much at play. You discussed what the police discussed in Ferguson, Missouri, Counselor, saying one of the reasons they did not release the name of the policeman being investigated is because of fear that that policeman might be targeted for assassination. With all the passion swirling around, if you were called upon to play a role in defense of this policeman, F. Lee Bailey, how would you deal with that in the midst of all the passion and the concern about safety, etc.?
Well, the first thing I'd have to do is find out what his story is and what tack to take on defense. If he had a strong defense, like someone else was shooting or threatening to shoot at him, that'd be one thing. If he just lost his temper, that would be quite another. But I share the concern that an outraged community might attack him or worse, do harm to his family.
Understand we've cleared up the little technical problem we had with Janet. Janet, we could see your smiling face. We just could not hear your sophisticated comments. But now we call you in with a couple of minutes remaining, and I'm just very interested. Yesterday, Lee said of this case, it was a good thing the FBI was taking it over, moving in to deal with this. I guess this may end up literally becoming a federal case. Janet, do you see it that way? Do you think it'll end up under the auspices of the feds? And if it does, do you think we're going to see a change of venue away from Ferguson, Missouri, maybe even St. Louis?
No, I do. And I think that the feds, not only are they coming in to potentially prosecute these officers, but they may supervise this police force for years. That's happened in Philadelphia. I think it happened in LA around the time of the Rodney King trial. So I do think that the feds will be supervising what's going on in this town because apparently they do have a checkered history. I also want to weigh in. I think the president's statement was a little different than the Trayvon statement. This wasn't sympathy necessarily for the Browns as much as a call for, let's just step back and not be passionate and not have rioting, because what's happened already in Ferguson could end up in tragedy, and I don't think the president wants to have that happen on his watch.
Both of you are well trained in the law, and we should point out, I'll issue the caveat, neither of you are on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri. But do you think short term, do you think passions are going to cool, or do you think we'll still see marching and possibly rioting and looting there tonight? Lee, first to you in the minute that remains.
I hope they cool because I have yet to understand how the community seeks revenge by breaking store windows and stealing other people's property. It seems to me that these are not community supporters. They're selfish people who see an opportunity to run away with other people's stuff. I think that is a sad aspect of these outbreaks, and I think it should be dealt with. But I don't know how, and neither do the police.
And that is a question we will continue to confront. Janet, very quickly, 15 seconds to you, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will be as bad, but I think it wouldn't be crazy to send in the National Guard or another force that is not the Ferguson Police Force, because the people in this community, perhaps rightly so, no longer have confidence that they are working for the community.
And on that note, we will end the discussion. It was civil, it was legal, and it was very practical. To you both, our thanks, and America's Forum continues.